Hello, this is Sita Menon. Welcome to Smart Creations online tutorials. Today we are going to looking at some artist paint brushes. Paint brushes comes in many different shapes and sizes. This video will tell you everything you need to know in order to select the right brushes to suit your needs. A paintbrush is made of four main parts: ferrule, bristles, crimp, and hand tip. Bristles is also known as hairs. It can be natural, synthetic, or a combination of both. And ferrule, it's a silvery or the metal bit that connects the bristles with the hand tip. And the crimp, this part of the ferrule that secures it to the hand tip. And the last one is the handle. It's usually made of wood or acrylic. The acrylic wash brush is a paintbrush that is very big. If you purchase a set of paintbrushes and notice a brush that is gigantic compared to the rest, it is most likely a wash brush. Acrylic wash brushes are best known for covering large parts of canvas or paper quickly. Paint can be applied using a dry brush, but most artists will use a wash brush by first dipping it into some water to achieve maximum coverage quickly. You may also notice these brushes are also thicker than most other brushes, allowing for the brush to pick up the most amount of paint and water. These are great brushes to use if you need to pick up a little excess paint or water off the canvas or paper you are working on. This is angled brush. The angled acrylic paintbrush is one of my go-to paintbrushes. I use this brush almost more than any other brush when creating mixed media art journal pages. This type of painting brush has an angled or slanted tip, which is why they are sometimes also known as slanted brushes. A slanted tip for the bristles is especially useful for curves and being able to create lines and shapes that vary in thickness and coverage. If you like the flexibility of being able to go from thin to thick with just one brush, this is the brush for you. Angled paintbrushes can also be more comfortable for many artists who are painting on a canvas upright on an easel, as there is sometimes a learning curve there since most of us learn to draw and paint while sitting down at a table at first. The next one is a flat brush. The flat brush very closely resembles a wash brush, except it is not quite as thick and the bristles are typically not as rounded on the edges. These brushes are great for wide strokes where you want a lot of paint coverage. If you are working on a surface where a wash brush might be too large, the flat brush gives you excellent coverage while also providing you a little more control over the wash brush. Flat brushes can also be used for thick or thin lines. However, for many people, the angled type will likely provide a little more comfort and control when working on a canvas at an easel. Next is a fan brush. The fan brush will become your new best friend if you have ever tried painting trees, grasses, shrubs, or even abstract watery type of designs with acrylic paints. Fan brushes, as the name would imply, have a fan-shaped tip. These brushes are great for blending backgrounds and skies, as well as adding subtle highlights to darker areas. You can also play around with a lot of different textures using a fan brush. If you tap the brush, you will get a different effect than if you simply create long brush strokes with it. While we often associate these brushes for painting nature elements and landscapes in acrylics, these brushes can also be excellent for adding fun textures and different designs in your mixed media art journals and abstract paintings as well. This is round brush. Round brushes are typically much smaller than flat and angled brushes and have a soft, rounded edge. These brushes give you maximum control for different details in your acrylic painting. The handle of these brushes have a narrower design and so similar to the same feeling you would have holding a pen or a pencil. Use these brushes for adding details and when you need full control of the size and flow of the paint. You may also wish to experiment with using these brushes both wet and dry for different effects while creating. The next one is a liner brush. A liner brush is a very thin brush uh, with very long bristles. It somewhat resembles the round brush, except it is much smaller. Liner brushes are best used for fine details in your artwork. You can use liner brushes to dip into acrylic paint or even with ink. Liner brushes are excellent for having a lot of control of the paintbrush and for creating very thin lines. You can also use a liner brush for lettering and adding words to your pages. Because the brush tip is very small, this makes it easier to write out letters, numbers, and words. Many artists who sign their artwork would use a liner brush when writing their signature. In art journaling, this is a great way to add text and words to your pages. These brushes work best when wet, although they can, of course, can also be used dry. Dipping into water before the paint can help make the paint flow and spread a bit more smoothly. You can also use ink with the liner brushes, which makes it very economical compared to using pens. These are palette knives. Palette knives are technically not actually brushes at all, but they are a very common and popular way to apply paint to canvas. Many artists use palette knives in a variety of different ways to create different textures and effects in their artwork. The advantage to a metal palette knife is they are generally much easier to clean. Metal palette knives are also much less likely to snap and break it if too much force is accidentally applied to them. You can use palette knives to create different textures, spread paint, and build up various layers. Palette knives are most popular to use on canvas because the paint tends to be applied very thickly. You can certainly use a palette knife in your art journals. Just be sure that you allow for ample drying time to ensure pages do not stick together. You may wish to use a lesser amount of paint so that the drying time is not so long.